Welcome everybody to our next installment of Humane at Home. And what's today? Wildlife Wednesday. My name is Carly and just wanted to show you guys again, as we're always trying to follow any of the guidelines that are being set out, gloves and masks, and we're going to be sticking 6 feet apart from my ambassador friend that we have here with us today. We didn't want to miss the opportunity to introduce you to one of the coolest ambassadors that we have. So we just want to make sure that we're still being safe and we're following all the rules, but I am going to take this mask off just so that I can breathe a little bit better and you might be able to hear me a little bit better. So today's segment, we are going to be talking all about baby birds. It is nesting season right now, my friends, and this beautiful San Diego weather is really providing perfect habitat for a lot of birds to be nesting around and to be maybe coming around the house and building their nests around you as well. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about baby birds and when they need to come into Project Wildlife and when they don't. Just a quick reminder, my friends, Project Wildlife is a wildlife rehabilitation center. We are a program of the San Diego Humane Society, so if you ever come across a sick or injured wild animal, please go ahead and be safe about it, but if you can bring them into us, we're going to be the best place for this animal to get properly rehabilitated and hopefully released back out to the wild. So today we're talking about those baby birds. And if you didn't know, there are about 3 different types of baby birds you might come across. We have what is called a hatchling, a nestling, and a fledgling. So not to be confused, but hopefully you can kind of tell a little bit from the names on what you're going to see. So a hatchling obviously has just been hatched. A nestling is going to be in the nest a little bit more, and a fledgling is going to be fledging, which means learning to fly. Now it's really important you kind of know the difference between the two because some of them need to come into Project Wildlife and some of them don't. And one great example of when an animal needs to come into Project Wildlife is our wonderful barn owl ambassador. This is Boo with his handler, Mike, one of our wonderful volunteers with Project Wildlife. He's been volunteering with Project Wildlife for over 15 years now, and he is one of our raptor rehabilitators, so he takes a lot of our bigger birds of prey, has a nice flight cage in his home area. He does live in Ramona, so he's got a lot of space out there. And he gets these animals when they're ready to start practicing fledging and flying until they're ready to be released. Boo was brought into Project Wildlife in 2011. He was hand-raised by a family. So as fun as it may seem, my friends, that if you find a baby bird or a baby rabbit or a baby raccoon or a possum right now, I know some of us are all stuck in the house, and so we may think it's something really cool to do to raise an animal ourselves. It is really not good to do that, especially for the animal, and if you live anywhere in California, it's completely illegal. So unfortunately, Boo was kept by a family for longer than they should have, and he imprinted on humans. So it means he lost his fear of human beings. And unfortunately, we cannot release animals that don't have the 100% capability of protecting themselves and providing themselves for themselves out in the wild. So Boo cannot be released back out to the wild because he would think people are his source of food and his best friends. So all of the attempts that we try to wild him up, which means we try to put him in with other wild barn owls, hoping that he would learn the ropes from them, he wanted nothing to do with them and he just wanted to be with his caregiver. So our wonderful volunteer Mike is Boo's partner and mate, and really enjoys being around Mike, especially during this time, which is baby season. So whenever Boo hears Mike around outside, Boo will actually call to Mike and say, "Hey, I have our nest ready, it's time to come on in." So it's a really quite an interesting relationship they have, but they're a very special bond, and we are so lucky that we have them here representing Project Wildlife and birds and owls in the wild. So let's get to the whole topic about a hatchling, a nestling, and a fledgling. So what you're going to see are some pictures over here. So obviously a hatchling is going to be a baby bird that was just born. We have a few examples of a few different types of nests that are around San Diego. This little tiny one, that's a hummingbird nest, so you can see how easy it is for that nest to be accidentally tree trimmed out of the nest. So Please try to hold off on doing any of your tree trimming right now. And if you're trimming those bushes, really, really do a really good look to make sure that there's no birds flying in and out, because you don't want to accidentally trim that nest out of that tree. If you do see it, stop what you're doing, step back, and let mama and dad birds do what they're supposed to do. So those hatchlings that you might find, that's exactly what it is. They just hatched. They're going to have closed eyes. They probably have no fur or no feathers whatsoever. So you'll probably see their pink little skin, maybe even can like see through it. And they're really weak and they're not able to stand up yet. And they kind of look like little wobbly little toddlers when they're learning how to walk. That animal is definitely going to need help. If that hatchling happened to get blown out of the nest, or with this rain that's happening, you're going to want to make sure that that animal stays nice and warm. If you are able to put that baby back up in the nest, let's say you don't see anything, like there's no blood, you don't see a broken wing, you don't see any big old lesions coming out from the body, and you see the nest, try to put it back in there. But a lot of us have heard that wise tale is that if you touch a baby bird, mom won't take it back. While that tale has probably saved the lives of a lot of birds, it's a complete myth. So if you touch the bird, you can still put it back up in the nest. Birds have a really poor sense of smell, so they cannot smell whether or not you touched it. And I don't know about my moms out there, but I'm pretty sure you're going to want to take your kid back after doing all that time and putting that effort and energy into raising that child. So that's a hatchling. Hatchling, eyes closed, no feathers whatsoever, pretty pink, pretty vulnerable. A few days later, because guys, they grow really fast, maybe about, let's say 3 to 7 days after that, maybe they're going to start opening their eyes and they're going to start getting some down feathers. So if anyone has like a down comforter or a pillow with the really soft feathers in it, that's what you're going to see. So they're going to look really like fuzzy little birdies right there. That's what we call a nestling. So they're going to be pretty much in the nest the entire time. They're going to be super reliant on mom and dad. They're going to rely on each other for warmth. And so one thing that's really interesting is that when birds lay their eggs, they lay them 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's always a big kid and there's always a little kid. And I don't know if any of you have been at the dinner table lately, but with food is kind of hard to find, you're going to want to eat as much as possible when you can. So sometimes the bigger bird can give the little kid a knock out of the nest. These babies are eating about every 15 to 25 minutes. For owls, it's a little bit different since they're going to be eating at nighttime, but for some of our songbirds, they have a really quick, high metabolism, so they're going to be eating pretty constantly. So mom goes out, finds her food, comes back real quick, all those little mouths open, boom, 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 and then she's off again to find more food. So if you happen to find that little kid, so now our nestlings are going to have little to maybe a few feathers coming in. They're going to be definitely still really reliant on their parents. They might not be able to regulate their heat and their body warmth quite yet. Their eyes may be popping open. Again, if you can put that baby bird in the nest, that's great. If you can't though, and let's say you could actually make your own nest. So that's another option, my friends. So you can get any type of container and just make sure that there's a hole at the bottom so that it can drain. Fill it with tissue paper. Try to put that baby bird in the nest and put your nest up high up, as far and close to the original nest as possible. Stand back and wait. You're the scary predator, so mom won't come back if you're standing super close. Keep a really close eye on that nest though, because they're really fast. But you won't have to wait super long, but before you'll hopefully see that mama bird, she'll come in, she'll hear all her little chirp, 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 feed the babies in her nest. She'll hear the little chirp from the baby that in your nest, and she'll come down and feed the baby in the nest that you made as well. So if we can keep these babies with their moms, that's going to be the best thing for them. Again, if you can't find the nest, if they might have been caught by your dog or your cat, or the nest has been completely destroyed by the rain, then of course, go ahead and bring them in to us. We will absolutely take them in and do our best to get them rehabilitated. The last one, the one that people tend to baby nap sometimes. I want to say bunny nap, but we're not talking about bunnies today. But bird napping are called the fledglings. The birds that are a little bit of down feathers, they still look a little bit wobbly, not quite ready an adult yet. And really well-intentioned people go ahead and pick them up and they bring them into us and say, there's no mom around, it can't fly, it is orphaned. Well, my friends, if you look at these nests again, you'll see that they don't actually get bigger with the babies. Hummingbirds a little bit do. They have a little bit of flexibility, but not a whole lot. So the baby birds actually grow out of the nest, and they literally can take a flying leap out of the nest and spend a few days on the ground. That's where they're going to build up their muscles, their flight muscles, and mom and dad are still going to come down and feed the baby. And then maybe, depending on the species, 5 days to a week, they're going to go ahead and be able to fly away. The really big important part of this is the reason that they don't stay in the nest is because they've been there for maybe a week, maybe 10 days, so now predators are starting to catch on and they can hear where the babies are at. So mama and dad birds don't want them to stay in one spot because they don't want to be caught by a predator. So when the babies fly down, they're going to hopefully go underneath a bush or something and stay there for a few days, again, calling out to mom and dad when they hear them, build those flight muscles, and then be ready to fly away. This is definitely where people see, they come across that baby bird hopping around, oh my gosh, it can't fly, let me pick it up. This is where we ask you to wait and watch. Again, step back, you're the scary predator. Wait back and see, watch with a really careful eye to see if you see any other bird coming down to feed it, and if they are, leave them alone. If they're maybe like a sidewalk, you can kind of maybe gently encourage them under a bush. If there's feral cat colony around, or you know that's just a really busy area, then you may want to intervene, but in honesty, we really want to try to give these birds the best chance of survival, and that is always going to be when they stay with their parents. We can't fly, we can't really teach them how to fly, we do our best, but if they can stay with mom and dad, that'll be the best thing for them. Before we get into learning a little bit more about Boo and barn owl facts, you guys just got a quick lowdown on nestlings, hatchlings, and fledglings. So if you're not confused quite yet, I know it's a little bit crazy, I'm going to show you a few pictures and maybe just put an N for nestling, H for hatchling, H for hatchling, N for nestling, and F for fledgling. See, I'm even getting them confused. I'm going to show you these pictures. You're going to write that letter down in nestling, hatchling, and fledgling, and we'll see if we can tell the difference between the baby birds that may need our help and the baby birds that don't need our help. And FYI, all these pictures you're about to see are from patients that came through Project Wildlife. So these are all in-house patients. Okay, if you can see that, that is 2 baby hummingbirds. It is a very tiny nest. So what are we noticing? I'm noticing some eyes are closed. I see little tiny pins, but overall, that is a naked body. What do you guys think? Hatchling, nestling, or fledgling? I'm just kidding. What is that? It is a hatchling. So these guys have just hatched, maybe even just hours before this picture was taken. We get baby hummingbirds brought into us all the time because they have been accidentally trimmed out of their tree. Let's go. What is this one? And guys, just so you know, this is what Boo looked like when he was a little itty baby. So again, we're seeing eyes closed, we're seeing really pink skin, we see a little bit of the downy feathers, but again, the eyes closed is going to be your biggest distinction that this is a hatchling, my friends. And you can see he's in a little tiny green strawberry basket, and that is how tiny these birds are when they're first born. Next picture. Here we go. These are baby crows. And again, eyes closed, basically no feathers. These guys were definitely probably born either the night before or the day before. Again, this is a hatchling, so you're definitely going to be able to want to look at those eyes and the skin. Next up, Maybe a little bit more difficult, 10 extra points if you know the type of bird. It is an owl, but what kind of owl is it? These are nestling western screech owls. So if anyone saw Chuck when he came in, this is what Chuck looked like when he was a little itty baby. You may see the little pink dot on one of the baby's heads. That's actually how we tell the difference between the two. So when they're being raised, we're making sure that we're monitoring everyone's weight and their food intake. Next up, this one's a little bit harder to see, but you can actually see that they are in their nest. This is a nest of spice finches. They have little tiny pin feathers coming in. So these guys are definitely nestlings, getting close. Well, they probably still have a little bit more while to go before they're going to be fledglings, but their nest got blown out of the tree. If you guys ever come across like a fully intact nest with babies in it already, try to put that nest back up into a tree as high as possible. Again, sit back, see if mom's coming back. There's a really great possibility she will be. If you don't see mom within 40 to 45 minutes, then they'll need to come in and come into our care. What do we think? Hatchling, nestling, or fledgling? What you'll notice, eyes are open, he is standing up, he has got most of his feathers in, so this is a fledgling, my friends. This is going to be the type of bird that you are going to see on the ground hopping around. Again, do not intervene unless they're around a dangerous spot, you know that there's a community cats around, or if you know it's just really dangerous for the animal, but all in all, if you can leave this bird where it's at, he is learning how to fly. All right, what do we see on this guy, or these little guys? So eyes are open, I see some feathers, but I also see some pin feathers and a little bit of pink skin on that head. So these guys are right in between nestling and fledgling. So just maybe a few more days so some more of those feathers come in, and then these guys are probably going to take that leap out. My friends, us humans are the only ones who stay with their kids for 18 years. Most other wild animals have it a little bit easier, and especially for birds, it's usually about 6 to 12 weeks is as long as they stay with their kids, and then their kids are out, bye-bye, good luck, see you later. And again, this is what Boo would have looked like as well, probably when he came in. So I see some down feathers, my friends, but I also see some actual feathers coming in, eyes are open. He is going to be a nestling as well. So maybe a few more days until he's a fledgling. If you were to see this baby on the ground, if you could put him back up in the barn out box or in the nest, that'll be great. But if you're able to monitor him and see how well he's doing, mom and dad will still be coming down to take care of him. And, oh, I love this photo. So this is a beautiful representation of all three of the steps right in front of us. These are pigeons. Yes, not mourning doves. These are pigeons. First little guy we see right here, that is a hatchling. So you can kind of definitely see the difference in the coloration of his feathers. That is all. You can kind of see the pink. His eyes are not open. The middle four you see are all nestlings. Their feathers are starting to come in, but they're not quite ready to be learning how to fly yet. And the guy on the furthest end over there, he is our fledgling. Believe it or not, all of these birds came in on the exact same day, and it was a perfect opportunity for our staff to snap a photo so that we could help educate people about the difference between hatchlings, nestlings, and fledglings. Who got 100% on that? Everybody? Woohoo! You guys are all super smart because I did not know all that either. It just takes some time, my friend, to just continuing to look at the animal and really try to see if you can decipher what's going on, what stage of life they're at. But let's turn our attention over to this really handsome bird and with his very handsome caregiver. So like I said, Boo came into our care center in 2011. Barn owls are super special, my friends. They are one of the only species of owls of their kind. So they are in the owl family, but barn owls, ooh, I don't know if you can hear that. I wish he was mic'd. He was telling you right now to tell our camera woman, Daryl, that she needed to step back a few steps. So with this guy right here, So barn owls have that really special facial disc around their head, and that is to really help them hear what is going on. Not only do owls have really great eyesight, but their hearing is amazing. If you see Boo, if he moves his head side to side, maybe around, he's actually trying to take in the sound through that facial disc, and it's filtering down to his little ear holes. And like we said with Chuck, he has one ear that's higher and one ear that's lower. Mike, I want to show how many feathers that guy has, like the feathers compared to where the skull starts. So if you guys see, basically to Mike's his knuckle right there. So this guy is full of feathers, really tiny skeletal structure, not super tiny, but a smaller skeletal structure, but a lot of those feathers. And again, like we mentioned with Chuck in those earlier sessions, they have those amazing feathers that allow them for silent flight, so they can fly above their prey without their prey knowing. And one really cool fact about barn owls is that these guys can be found on every continent except Antarctica. There's about 17 different species of barn owls alone, and they're really, really awesome at rodent control. I believe we have a question coming in. Let me see if I got an answer for you.
Stacy would like to know, what sound do barn owls make?
Good job, Stacy. So barn owls have a few different types of sounds. What was that?
Repeat the question.
Oh, Stacy asked, what type of sounds do barn owls make? So I don't know if you guys heard it, but right now when Daryl was getting a little too close, he had a low screeching sound. Kind of sounded like, I don't know, a Halloween noise. Just like that really raspy, low, kind of just a one long sound going on. But these guys make a ton of different noises as well as what they do is quite a loud screech at night. I will not mimic that, my friends, like I've done with all the other birds, but it's a really high-pitched screeching noise. Kind of sounds like a witch at nighttime. It can be terrifying, but remember, the screech owls don't actually screech, the barn owls screech. And then do they make any other noises, Mike? Like a chirping noise? Oh, they make a little tiny clicking noise as well. And so
Maybe call that.
A little chirp, 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 chirp. That's the main call these guys will make. Super amazing, awesome birds to have around. They like to live around, they're pretty much found in all sorts of different habitats. Here in San Diego, we can find these guys a lot more inland, but it doesn't mean that they won't be along the coast as well. They will nest in they like cavities, so they're cavity nesters. So cavities in trees, sometimes they're called barn owls, so they were found a lot of times in barns. They want to have some sort of safe structure around them. Because we don't have a lot of barns here, these guys are definitely also like palm trees. So the really tall Mexican palms, the skirts that grow around those palm trees can sometimes make really awesome barn owl habitat as well as bat habitat. So you want to be extra, extra careful if you're trimming those palm trees, the skirts around the palm trees, the tall ones. If you start trimming those, some of our nocturnal species live in those areas, so we want to make sure we're not trimming them out of the tree when you trim those palms. Do we have another question coming through, Daryl?
Kate would like to know, do barn owls mate for life?
Do barn owls mate for life? Yes, they do. Unless something happens to the mate and they got to go find another one, but for the most part, they will mate for life. The male will do a little display flight in front of the female, kind of like it's called a moth flight, where he hovers in front of the female and his feet are dangling. And then he likes to show her the nest so that he tries to entice her to want to be a mate with him. Another question coming in.
Yes, Dennis wants to know, do they make a hoot hoot sound at all?
Great question, Dennis. Dennis wanted to know if they also make a hoot hoot noise. That is an actually really particular noise only for the great horned owls. Here on the West Coast, great horned owls are the only owls that hoot. So if you hear that characteristic typical hoo, 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 that is what you're hearing is the great horned owl. You typically may not always find barn owls in the same territory as great horned owls. Great horned owls will sometimes hunt barn owls, so they don't necessarily want to share the exact same space. They will get kind of close in their territories, but they're definitely not going to be right next to each other. Another question, Ms. Dariel.
Leah wants to know, do barn owls return to the same nest every year?
Do barn owls return to the same nest every year? Yes, they can. So barn owls are more particular about their nesting site versus the available prey. So if the nesting site has proven to be really successful, they will definitely be coming back. So they will share prey with other barn owls. So it's not typical that these guys, they don't defend their hunting sites as much as they do defend their nesting site. So they will come back if it is possible. And if you do have a barn owl around, my friends, you have built-in rodent control. Boo here alone can eat 5 to 6 mice a night. And so just maybe double that if he was a female and if they had babies to feed. So these guys are amazing to have around. If you are having a lot of rodent issues, you want to maybe put up a barn owl box versus using rodent bait. But definitely do not want to use rodent bait if you know you have barn owls, because you could really, really make these guys sick to a point where they may no longer be able to survive if they have too much of that poison inside of their body. So you don't want to kill your built-in rodent control. So these guys are super amazing to have around. Typically, they'll lay about 4 to 6 eggs at a time. The female will sit on the eggs all the time. She does most of the incubating, but the male will be coming to feed her, and he'll feed the babies. She sits on the eggs for around 30 to 32 days, or incubates the eggs for about 30 to 32 days. And then the babies are going to stay with their parents for about 10 weeks. And then they're going to start getting in those feathers and start to fledge. And about 14 weeks old, parents say, bye-bye kids, you're done, you're out. But babies will try to come around to their parents for possibly up to 7 months. But mom and dad are saying, no kids, it's time for you to go find your own territory, go find your own mate, and good luck and have fun. But these guys are awesome again, my friends, but they are threatened by a few different things going on around the world. They are not considered a threatened species, but they are threatened due to habitat destruction. One thing with barn owls as well is that if they're lucky to survive their first year of life, maybe around 7 to 9, maybe 10 years of age is pretty common for these guys. They can typically live a little bit longer, but they do have a really tough time because they are losing their suitable habitat to agriculture fields. And also, again, they're super susceptible to those rodenticides, the poisoning, and just urban and suburban development. So if we can help these guys out, again, if you want to put up a barn owl box, there are a ton of resources online to find out if your habitat is suitable, where to put it. They can be pretty picky on the boxes that they choose. I've had some people tell me that they put up an owl box and it took 7 years for the owls to take up residence. So bring your patience with you. Bees also like to take up residence in the owl boxes as well, but bees need our help as well. So we just want to make sure that we're learning how to coexist with our wildlife. They make San Diego super special, my friends. We are so lucky that we have so many different species of animals in San Diego, let alone all the different species of owls that we have here too. But again, my friends, it's super important right now. It is baby season. We want to make sure that we are able to help assist you guys in all the ways possible. If you guys are coming across wild animals and you're just not sure whether or not they need your help, please refer to the website sdhumane.org. You can find Project Wildlife. We're trying to put a ton of resources up there for you right now to help you out so that you can help us out. If the animal does need your help, though, my friends, you do see an obvious injury, you do know that maybe one of the parents has passed away, if you can be safe about it, like we should all have gloves now around, so make sure you use gloves, a towel, a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, cover that animal up. You want to try to make sure you cover up their head. get them contained in a box or a crate. If it's a box, make sure there's holes in it, and you want to keep them warm, dark, and quiet. Warm, dark, and quiet. I didn't tell you to feed them, and I didn't tell you to give them water. You could be doing more harm than good if you try to feed a wild animal food or water. Warm, dark, and quiet, and bring them down to our wildlife center, the Chuck and Pilar Body Wildlife Center here down in San Diego. You're going to go into our night drop-off area. There's instructions. It's going to be very limited contact. Leave the animal there. Our staff is there. We're fully staffed right now as much as we can be, and we're really doing our best to help these animals out. We just got in a baby screech owl today. We've had quite a few baby barn owls coming through, baby great horned owls as well. So we really want to make sure we're helping them out. But again, if you find them on the ground, wait before you intervene, because again, you want to make sure you're looking at whether it's a hatchling, a nestling, or a fledgling. Miss Daryl, do we have any last final questions? I think we're good, my friends. Well, tune in again on Friday. We are so happy to have you joining us on these Humane at Home episodes. And we are super excited to see you guys on Friday and next week as well. Bye-bye.